Previously, a message arrived. Can we be strangers again? But the story didn't end there. What happens when you can't forget someone, even when they've forgotten you? When every notification feels like a ghost? When you replay old conversations like they're the only proof it was ever real? In this next part of Can We Be Strangers Again, we dive deeper into lost love, broken trust, and the silent wars we fight with ourselves. From sleepless nights to unexpected reunions, from missed chances to emotional confessions, this is not just a continuation. It's a storm, and you're standing right in the middle of it. Welcome back to the story of Dev, Avantika, and Tanishka. This is Can We Be Strangers Again? Part 2. A sweet December in Bangalore. December finally arrived, and with it, my big move to Bangalore. Ah, Bangalore, the city with some of the best weather I'd ever experienced. Cool breezes, warm sun, and a beautiful sky. It felt like a fresh start, in every sense. I found a PG near Koramangala, tucked away in one of those lanes where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixes with the hum of city life. Something about the air that made it feel different, like I was stepping into a new chapter of my life, a bigger, more complex one. But this wasn't just about the city, it was about college. When I finally stepped onto campus, it hit me. It wasn't the Karan Johar movie kind of college with scenic lawns and endless hangouts. No, this was different. Here, the most crucial accessory wasn't your phone or a pair of cool sunglasses. Rather, it was your ID card. Lose that, and you'd be treated like a criminal. And the dress code? Forget about casual. Formal attire was the law of the land. Shirts tucked in, shoes polished, ties perfectly knotted. If anything, Christ had this weirdly articulate way of reminding you that here, things weren't just serious. They were professional. Every morning felt like you were dressing up for a board meeting rather than a lecture. Walking through the gates, I saw my classmates in real life for the first time. Faces I had only seen on WebEx, where they were just tiny squares on a screen. In person, everything was different. The atmosphere had a quiet intensity to it. Everyone was focused, driven. It was like the entire environment pushed you to do more, to be better. There was excitement in the air. Students were enthusiastic, borderline obsessed with participation, whether it was in class or the endless events that seemed to pop up. It wasn't just academics, it was about being the best version of yourself in every sense. I could feel it too. The pull to excel, to push boundaries, and to match the pace of those around me. Christ was something else entirely, unique in every way. It wasn't just a college, it was a proving ground, a place where you felt the weight of expectation with every step. But that pressure didn't feel suffocating. It felt like a challenge, like an invitation to rise above the ordinary. And I was ready for it. The anticipation of starting classes in person was already building, but tomorrow was the real game changer. Avantika was arriving, and so was Tanishka. I hadn't seen either of them since we all got tangled in the web of online classes, and the thought oftenly meeting them in person added a different kind of excitement. It wasn't just about beginning offline classes anymore. It felt like stepping into a new phase of our lives, where every unspoken word and every smiling face would carry more weight. The calm. Before the storm, before their arrival, I met a couple of classmates I had grown to share good boundaries over the months, Pavni and Saurabh. Airy was something comforting about them. We'd talked a lot during our WebEx sessions, and now, in person, it was even easier to slip into conversation. We exchanged pleasantries, laughed about how awkward those tiny video windows had been, and it felt good. Like we'd been here before, only now, it was real. But the real moment, the one that made my heart race, was seeing Avantika. The next day, I was standing near the entrance of the campus, casually talking with Pavni and Saurabh, when I spotted her. Avantika stepped out, of the car with her parents. She was wearing a pink top and black jeans, simple but perfect. Her hair fell in soft waves, but it was her eyes that left me awestruck. Her parents were there to drop her off, and somehow, I found myself walking over to greet them. Her mom smiled warmly, and her dad gave me a warm handshake. "How's everything? Going? All set for this new chapter?" they asked. I nodded, exchanging small talk, but my mind was elsewhere. All I could focus on was Avantika, the way she looked, the way she carried herself. It felt like the perfect moment, like everything was falling into place. Everything seemed so good, so right. I shook hands with Avantika, and the smile she gave in return was the kind that made everything else fade into the background for a second. Eventually, we decided to head to Block 4, the canteen, where the smell of fried snacks and coffee hung thick in the air. It was a staple hangout spot at Christ. Nothing fancy, but just right for catching up. As we sat there, our conversation owed effortlessly, and pretty soon, we started teasing each other like we always did. As we were laughing, Avantika's phone rang. It was Tanishka, and with a quick, "She's here," we both got up to head toward the gate to pick her up. The moment Tanishka saw Avantika, it was like watching a Bollywood reunion scene, minus the background score. They rushed toward each other like long-lost sisters, hugging so tightly, you'd think they hadn't seen each other in 1,000 years. "Are, chod bhi do." I laughed, watching their never-ending hug that could probably last another millennium. Finally, they pulled apart. Tanishka turned to me with a polite smile and offered a quick, formal handshake. No warmth, no real connection, just a clear sign that our bond had never really grown. We were still just there, orbiting around Avantika. After that, I couldn't help but ask, "So where are you guys staying?" Avantika replied, "We're in a PG in Koramangala too," and they were sharing a room together. I tried to keep my tone casual, but inside I was buzzing with excitement. "That's where I'm staying as well," I said. The thought of us all being so close, sharing the same little corner of Bangalore, filled me with a quiet kind of joy. It wasn't just about the proximity. It felt like our lives were threading together in some small but significant way. The hustle of the city, the vibrant energy of Koramangala. It was like everything was aligning perfectly. For a moment, I let myself imagine the days ahead. Random coffee runs, late-night talks, bumping into each other at odd hours. It all seemed so possible now. There was a sense of ease, a comfort in knowing that we weren't just classmates, but now neighbors in this chaotic yet beautiful city. "Looks like we'll be seeing a lot more of each other," I said, ashing a smile that I hoped hid just how much that idea thrilled me. The next few days were a whirlwind of introductions, campus tours, and trying to end our footing in this new chapter of our lives. I had expected a typical college vibe, but this was something different. Every student seemed eager, enthusiastic, and determined. The environment was infectious, and I found myself swept up in the enthusiasm, even if I still missed the comfort of my old routines. Days you by, and soon enough, we were deep into the rhythm of college life. I met new faces, formed new friendships, and learned to navigate the quirks of our academic environment. Amidst all this, Avantika and I fell back into a familiar rhythm. Our conversations were a blend of teasing, laughter, and occasional serious talks about our classes and future plans. It felt like we had picked up right where we left off, with the added dimension of our shared experiences in Bangalore. But something was different this time. We weren't just friends anymore. That much was clear. The way she laughed, the way she glanced at me during our conversations, even the way she brushed her hair behind her ear. It was all different. I was drawn to her more than ever, and every little thing about her felt magnified. Maybe it was the fact that I had already admired her from afar during those online classes. But now, in person, She was even more beautiful, even more captivating. It became impossible to deny the feelings that had been quietly building inside me. I wanted more than just late-night conversations and inside jokes. I wanted to tell her how I felt, to lay it all out there, and see if she felt the same way. The idea of proposing to her started to take root in my mind, and it consumed me. But this had to be special. It couldn't be just another proposal. I had to plan it right. In my PG room, I paced around, running different scenarios through my head. Should it be simple? Something grand? Avantika deserved something extraordinary. I could feel the excitement bubbling up. But I was also nervous. I didn't want to rush this. That's when I decided to call Tanishka. Maybe she could help me figure out the perfect way to propose. I dialed her number, and as soon as she picked up, I blurted out, "Hey, Tanishka, I need your help. I'm going to propose to Avantika. I'm sure of it. I'm in love with her." There was a pause on the other end. Tanishka's voice came through, calm and collected, as always. "Are you sure? Take your time before you do anything. Make sure it's really what you want." I felt a flicker of frustration. Why did she always seem so protective of Avantika when it came to me? It was like she didn't trust me or didn't believe in what I felt. I wondered for a second why Tanishka doesn't want me to be with Avantika. I sat on the edge of my bed, gripping my phone a little tighter. Tanishka's voice was soft but firm, and it made me pause. "What do you mean? Take my time?" "I've been thinking about this for months now, Tanishka. I've liked her since the first day we started talking, and now it feels like the right time," I said, pacing again. "I know, but sometimes what feels right isn't always, well, right," she replied. "Okay, no. Thanks for your time," I said abruptly, feeling more frustrated than before. I hung up and tossed my phone aside. After a few minutes of sitting in silence, I did what any modern-day romantic would do. I opened YouTube and typed in, "How to propose to a girl." The first video that popped up had this guy pulling off some grand gesture with roses and candles. "Arey, ye sab to bahut mehenga hai," I thought, shaking my head. I closed the video and leaned back on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Yar, naturally, kuch sochna padega. I typed the message. "Can we meet tomorrow at Ace Cafe after class?" and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Whatever happens, I'll just say it the best I can, I thought, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. I opened my wardrobe and scanned for a good shirt. Something nice, but not too obvious. I grabbed one, spritzed some of my best cologne, and with all these thoughts swirling in my mind, I finally managed to fall asleep. The next morning, I woke up around 7:30, just in time for the 8:30 class. As usual, we had some boring lectures, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. My thoughts kept drifting to what I was about to do. During the break, Avantika casually asked, "What's up? Why are we meeting at the cafe? Should we call Tanishka too?" I quickly shook my head. "No, just you and me," I replied, my heart starting to race a little already. We met at Ace Cafe, ordered some coffee, and I could feel my heartbeat speeding up as the moments passed. I tried to act calm, but inside I was anything but. I was sitting next to her there, staring into her eyes. The world around us seemed to blur, and all I could see was Avantika, more beautiful in this moment than I had ever realized. Taking a deep breath, I began. "Avantika, naam bhi khubsurat hai, aur aap bhi." My voice trembled slightly, but the sincerity was clear. "I've been holding on to this for so long," I continued, "waiting for the right moment to tell you. But sitting here with you, I realized there's never going to be a perfect moment. Because with you, every moment feels right." I could feel my pulse quickening as I took a step closer, the air thick with the weight of everything I was about to say. "When I first saw you, It was your beauty that attracted me. But the more I got to know you, the more I realized it wasn't just about how you looked. It was about everything. The way you smile when you're lost in thought. The way you light up when you talk about things you love. The way you make me feel like nothing else matters when we're together. I paused, swallowing the lump in my throat, and without any pauses blurted it out. Avantika, I love you. Not just in the way they show in movies, but in the way that makes me want to be a better person for you. I love the way you challenge
me, the way you care, the way you make everything seems a little bit brighter.
And I don't want to go another day without you knowing that. I took her hand gently, holding it as if it were the most precious thing in the world. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that with you, everything feels possible. So here I am, sitting in front of you, hoping you'll feel the same way. Hoping that maybe, just maybe, I can be the one to make you as happy as you've made me. Her eyes softened. The world stood still. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what she said, everything was about to change forever. Before I could delve deeper, I noticed my drink was over. I stared at the glass in front of me, the dim light casting a faint glow around the room. I poured myself another drink, the liquid splashing into the glass. A brief moment of comfort before the thoughts came oozing back. If only I'd listened to Tanishka back then, I muttered, half to myself. She was trying to protect me, in her own way, giving me all the signs. But no, I was too blinded by what I thought was love, too much of a dumbass to see it. The weight of it hit me then. It wasn't just a memory. It was a reminder of the mistakes I made, the ones that shaped everything after. The old monk burned down my throat, but it was nothing compared to the regret simmering inside. A rain-kissed confession. As the alcohol began to work its magic, my thoughts drifted back to that evening in 2020. When Avantika said yes to my proposal, it was a mix of relief and joy. Her words, soft yet rem, had left me in a daze. I don't know if it's love, she had said, but you're someone who helps me enjoy life, a companion I cherish deeply. I couldn't believe it. I had a girlfriend, and it felt like a dream wrapped in the warmth of our shared moments. Yet, Avantika had made it clear. Let's keep this personal, she said. These are our early days. I want to savor them, without the world's eyes. We left the cafe, stepping out into the cool night air. It felt like a scene from a movie, just the two of us in a quiet street. It felt like a scene straight out of a movie, complete with a light breeze and the promise of rain. The night sky seemed to hold its breath as we walked hand in hand. It was almost poetic, the way the heavens seemed to conspire with our own. Small fairy tale. Our PG was a 12-minute walk. Soon, raindrops began to fall. At first it was just a light drizzle, but soon it turned into a steady, gentle shower. The rain made everything feel fresh and new, like a promise of something magical. We strolled slowly, our hands clasped together, feeling the rain soak through our clothes. East Street was almost empty, with only the distant glow of streetlights and the occasional flicker of neon signs. We turned into a particularly isolated lane as the raindrops grew stronger. We found shelter under the awning of a closed shop, where the only sounds were the rhythmic pattern of the rain that created a curtain of sound that added to the sense of intimacy. We stood there, our bodies close, the warmth of our breaths mingling in the cool night air. I looked into Avantika's eyes, seeing them shine with a mix of excitement and affection. We were close enough that I could feel her breath on my face, warm and soft against the cool rain. I tilted my head slightly, closing the distance between us. My fingers gently brushed her wet hair away from her face, my thumb caressing her cheek. She moved closer, her lips just a breath away from mine. With our faces inches apart, I felt her warm breath mingling with mine. I leaned in, our lips meeting in a slow, deliberate kiss. The rain continued to fall around us, each drop adding to the sense of intimacy and connection. Our kiss began softly, exploring the newness of this moment. Her lips were tender and responsive, matching the rhythm of my own. As we continued, the kiss deepened, becoming more passionate. Soon we left for her PG. We hadn't uttered a word since the kiss, and honestly, it wasn't necessary. The silence between us was comfortable, filled with the kind of understanding that needed no explanation. I watched her disappear inside, before turning to make my way back to my own PG. Once I was back, I took off my soaked clothes, the night's rain still fresh in my mind. I grabbed my phone, wiping off the droplets that got collected on it. For a moment, I just stood there, lost in thought, replaying everything that had happened. A kiss. It was more than I had imagined. My phone buzzed softly in my hand. But before checking any notifications, I messaged Avantika. It was the best kiss I've ever had. She replied almost instantly. Not actually. I stared at the message for a second, not sure whether to laugh or feel embarrassed. Before I could think too much, another message popped up. But it wasn't bad either. I couldn't help but smile at my screen. When everything felt like a fairy tale. Days passed, and we found ourselves talking more and more. The classes kept rolling. I was enjoying everything like never before. It felt like I had hit the jackpot. A great college, new friendships, and Avantika. It was like living in a dream. But they say, even the sweetest dreams have their nightmares. We kept things low-key in college, acting like we were just friends. Even Tanishka, who usually had a sixth sense for these things, was clueless. She'd asked me more than once if I had finally proposed to Avantika, and each time I'd brush it off with a casual, "No, not yet." We never really talked much about it, so she never pushed me for more details. Just as everything, seemed to be falling into place. The second wave of COVID hit. I hadn't even had 2 full months of this new normal when life came crashing down again. The campus closed, restrictions tightened, and the world suddenly felt small again, reduced to video calls and endless texts. Before we all headed back to our hometowns, we decided to spend one last day together, just the 3 of us. It wasn't some grand plan, just a way to hold on to the time we had left. I invited Avantika and Tanishka to my PG since I had a single room, and it felt more personal than any cafe or park. We wanted to make the most of the time before heading back to the uncertainty that awaited us with the second wave looming. At day, something unexpected happened. As we were sitting around, talking about everything and nothing, Avantika casually pulled out a cigarette. I blinked, completely taken aback. She lit it with ease, taking a drag, and all I could do was stare. Tanishka didn't react, which made me wonder. Had she known about this the whole time? I, on the other hand, had no idea. "Wait, you smoke?" I finally asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Avantika smiled, blowing out a puff of smoke. "Yeah, sometimes. Didn't think it was a big deal." It wasn't like I was judging her, but it was strange seeing her do something I had never associated with her. I'd never imagined her as the kind of person who smoked. And to be honest, I hated the smell of cigarettes. I shifted a little, feeling uneasy but trying to hide it. "I don't know," I said, feeling a little awkward. "I've always hated the smell." She glanced at me, reading my discomfort. "You've never smoked, have you?" she asked, amusement in her voice. "Nope, never thought I would. It's just not my thing," I said, trying to keep the mood light, though the smell was already getting to me. She shrugged, taking another drag. "Don't worry. I won't force you into anything." I smiled, but inside, I was still processing this new side of her. It was like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Ah, fuck. Here I am, lighting the 6th cigarette of the day. I stared at the small flame as it flickered at the tip of the cigarette, the irony not lost on me. 2 years ago, I couldn't stand the smell, and now it's become a habit I can't shake. Funny how habits stay, but people always find a way to leave. Hidden cards. The evening was light, easy, and everything we needed. We played Uno. Laughter awed the room as we threw down our cards, ordering cheese crust pizza, Avantika's favorite. "You're cheating," Tanishka yelled, throwing a pillow at Avantika, who was smugly stacking up her cards. "I never cheat. I'm just better," she replied, her eyes sparkling with that playful competitiveness. Everything was perfect. One of those rare moments where you feel like the world is pausing. For you, letting you live in it a little longer. We were laughing, teasing each other, and for a while, it felt like nothing else mattered. But then, I noticed something. Out of the corner of my eye, Avantika's phone lit up. Mehul. Ataname ashed across the screen, and for a second, the air around me felt heavier. Mehul, her ex. I tried not to let it bother me, tried to focus on the game, but curiosity gnawed at me. She quickly declined the call, brushing it off like it didn't matter, but there was something in the way she looked at her phone. Hesitant, distracted. She kept glancing at it like she was waiting for something. My mind started racing with questions. Why was he calling her? Why didn't she tell me about it? Were they still in touch? But I didn't ask. Not then. I wasn't sure if I wanted to know the answers. "Hey, put your phone down," I said, trying to keep it casual. "Focus on the game. We need to gang up on Tanishka or she's going to win again." Avantika smiled, setting her phone face down on the table. Yeah, I'm here," she said, but her eyes darted back to the screen once more. She was texting someone, maybe him? And it was like there was a wall between us, one I hadn't noticed before tonight. I forced myself to stay in the moment, to keep the mood light, but something had shifted, a small crack that I couldn't quite ignore. Still, I didn't say a word, hoping it was nothing. Just a call. Just a text. But deep down, I knew something was off. As the night slowed down, Avantika casually suggested we grab some beer. Now, I had never had beer in my life, but of course I nodded like a pro. We walked to the shop near my PG, and the moment I stood in front of the fridge, it was like I was trying to crack the final question on Kon Banega Crorapati. I didn't know a single brand, so I just grabbed Budweiser because, well, it sounded familiar, like something I'd seen in a movie once. We got back to my PG, and of course, Tanishka took charge like she'd been doing this her whole life. She popped open all our bottles with one smooth motion while I stood there, pretending like I knew what was going on. I gave her a nod like, yeah, that's how it's done. But inside, I was just thankful she didn't ask me to do it. Cheers, Tanishka said, her eyes gleaming as we settled in to watch a movie. The room dimmed, the sound of the film echoing in the background, but our focus wasn't really on the screen. We were all a little buzzed by then, just enough to feel loose, free. At some point, Tanishka got a call from her parents. She groaned, knowing she'd have to leave. I better go, or they'll freak out, she said, standing up reluctantly. My PG's just a 3-minute walk, so it's neat. Avantika and I waved her off, and just like that, we were alone. The buzz of alcohol still hummed in my veins as the silence between us grew heavier. The movie was still playing, but neither of us was really watching anymore. I glanced at Avantika, her face illuminated by the dim glow of the screen, and without thinking, I reached for her, pulling her into an embrace. Her body pressed against mine perfectly, as if this moment had been waiting for us all along. Her eyes met mine, and something unspoken passed between us, a silent agreement that words weren't needed. Our lips met again, but this time it was different. The kiss was slow at first, delicate, like we were exploring something fragile. The intensity grew, as if all the feelings we had kept bottled up were suddenly free. Beer, the laughter, the warmth of the night, it all blended together into something primal and real. I pulled her closer, my hands finding her waist, and she responded, her ears threading through my hair, tugging me nearer, as if she couldn't get enough. Every touch felt electric, like sparks igniting beneath our skin. We fell backward onto the bed, still tangled in each other. Her breath was warm against my neck as my hands roamed around her back, exploring the curves of her body, pulling her even closer. She gasped softly, her fingers gripping my shirt, and suddenly, there was no room for hesitation, no space between us, just pure, overwhelming need. The way she kissed me, slow, then fast and desperate, made my heart race. My hands slid under her top, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my fingers, and I could feel her body tremble against mine. Her hands weren't idle either, tracing the lines of my shoulders, my chest, like she was memorizing every inch of me. Her lips trailed down my neck, biting and leaving a trail of erotic sensation that sent shivers through me. I pulled her tighter, not wanting the moment to end. Every touch felt amplified, every kiss more intense than the last, as if the world outside didn't matter anymore. A room was filled with the sound of our moans, the quiet hum of desire, and nothing else existed. After what felt like hours, we finally slowed down. Her head rested on my chest, and I could still feel the lingering warmth of her skin against mine. The silence between us felt comfortable, but my mind was racing, thoughts creeping back in as the intensity of the moment faded. But as we lay there, reality started to creep back in. The haze of the moment began to lift, and with it, so did the questions. My mind wandered to places I didn't want it to go. I swallowed, unsure if I should say it, but the words came out anyway, soft and hesitant. "Are you and Mehul still in contact?" I asked, my voice low, but it was enough to break the stillness between us. She looked at me, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes before she replied, "Yeah, we're just normal friends. Sometimes we talk because he's a family friend." I frowned, trying to wrap my head around it. Can an ex really be just a friend? I wondered aloud, but she just shrugged, clearly unfazed by my curiosity. And she asked, "Can I light up a cigarette? You know, a cigarette after sex is something different." I raised an eyebrow, half joking. "Seriously? Is it really that special?" She smirked. "Hand me the pack and the lighter from the table first, and maybe you'll and out." Reluctantly, I passed her the cigarette pack and lighter, watching as she expertly lit it up and took a long, slow drag. She offered it to me again, and despite every instinct telling me no, I figured, why not? One try wouldn't hurt. I took the cigarette, trying to act nonchalant, but as soon as I inhaled, my throat caught up. I coughed uncontrollably, my eyes watering. "Oh God, how do people enjoy this? It's like licking a car exhaust." Avantika chuckled, clearly amused by my struggle. "Not everyone's made for it," she teased. "Yeah, no thanks," I said, shaking my head, still recovering from the aftertaste. It's 2024, and I'm sitting here, watching the smoke lazily swirl from my lips, the warm buzz of my sixth peg settling in. Who would have thought I'd be this person? Smoking has become essential for me. I glance at my phone lying next to me, its screen lighting up with notifications. 100+ unread messages. group assignments, deadlines, reminders. It's the MBA life on steroids. I stared at them for a second and swiped them away. Honestly, कभी-कभी तो मुझे भी free riding करना चाहिए. Let someone else take the wheel for once? Isn't that what an MBA is all about? Delegation, right? But then, another notification catches my eye. Tanishka. It's a message I've been avoiding for reply. I open it, and there it is. Live your life. Don't get stuck on me. I'm removing you from Instagram and Snapchat. If you ever need anything, just let me know. I'll always be here for you. Goodbye and good luck with your placement. I stare at the words for a long moment, letting them sink in. Funny how things change, how people drift. I take another sip, feeling the weight of those words settle in my chest. I know I need to reply, and Nally, I do. You were the one who taught me not to get stuck on people. And yeah, this time I'm ready for that. All the best for your next 2 years at St. Xavier's. Take care, Tanishka. Suddenly, it hit me. I should have just listened to Tanishka's words. If only I had understood what she was trying to say before everything slipped away. Before I made that move, before I proposed. But I didn't. If I hadn't proposed to Avantika, maybe things would have been different. I ended up losing Tanishka not once, but twice. Once because of Avantika, and the second for reasons I still don't fully understand. It's like there was something hidden, something I wasn't meant to know, and now it haunts me. I slid my phone and glanced at the time. 12 a.m. 12 already. Who even sleeps at 12 during an MBA? It's practically midday in MBA time. The night was young and my mind restless as ever. I couldn't stop thinking about it all, so I let my thoughts wander back. Unanswered calls and unspoken words. After that night of intense emotions and intimacy, I dropped Avantika off at her PG and returned to mine. Evenings. Passion and the rawness of our connection still clung to me as I collapsed onto my bed, utterly spent and lost in thought about what the next day would bring. Our flights were scheduled for midday, and we all headed to the airport together. As I boarded, my mind couldn't help but wander to the past couple of months. So much had happened, and yet I was ridiculously happy. I thought about how the next 2 years might play out, excitement bubbling inside me. But as soon as I landed, the familiar WebEx notifications started oozing in. Our college life was back on our laptops, back to virtual reality. Ings between Avantika and me seemed perfect, though. We had small fights here and there, but nothing major. Everything felt stable. Except, I didn't have anyone to talk to. About it. About us. She made it clear that we were to keep it quiet. I couldn't even tell Tanishka. She had warned me not to propose to her, and yet I had. Plus, Avantika and Tanishka were really close. If Tanishka found out, she might tell Avantika, and then, well, that would be a mess. Avantika and I used to talk every night. We shared everything. But this one night was different. Her call was busy when I tried her, and I assumed she'd call me back in a few minutes. 2 hours passed, and still no word from her. I called again, but no reply. Worried, I messaged Tanishka, asking if she was talking to Avantika, but she wasn't. It wasn't until 3 hours later that I learned why. Avantika had been occupied with Mehul, who was struggling with academic pressure. It was a side of her I hadn't seen before, a glimpse into the support she was offering someone else, while I was left in the dark. As I tried to understand the silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story, more that I was yet to uncover. Although I was trying to process the idea of an ex remaining friends, it was tough to digest. I was grappling with questions, unsure if I was overthinking, or if there was something more to consider. As I tried to understand the silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story, more than I had already uncovered. Secrets and silence. The next morning, in the middle of a particularly dull WebEx lecture, my phone buzzed. It was Avantika. "Hey, I'm so sorry for yesterday. You didn't reply to my texts. Is everything okay?" I quickly replied, "I told you. Everything was new. I hope Mehul is all right now." "Yeah, he's doing better now. He doesn't really have any friends apart from me, so it was important for me to talk to him." I nodded, understanding why she had been preoccupied. "It's Nay." After a brief pause, I asked, "We've been dating for over a month now. Can I share this with other people, like Tanishka or Pavni or Saurabh?" She hesitated before replying, "I'm not comfortable with that. I'd prefer to keep it between us for now." Our conversation continued, light and casual, and everything seemed normal between us, or at least, it felt that way. As months passed, I got to know a lot about Avantika's past and the reasons behind some of her choices. She shared some of her darkest secrets with me, stories of family issues and personal struggles, and everything. Meanwhile, as the pandemic's second wave was subsiding, the Karnataka government announced that colleges could reopen in a hybrid mode. It was a mix of relief and apprehension as we faced the uncertainty of this new phase, trying to adapt to the shifting landscape of our lives. The pressing question? We decided to schedule a Zoom meeting to tackle the most pressing question of our lives. Should we stay home and wait for the third wave to make its grand entrance, or should we boldly venture back to Bangalore and face whatever comes our way? Avantika started off with her usual caution. "I'll only come to Bangalore if it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, I'm happy staying cozy at home." Tanishka, ever the thrill-seeker, countered with a grin. "I'm going for sure. I'm over this home quarantine life. I need a change of scenery and some actual human interaction." I sat there, torn between the comfort of staying home and the pull of the campus life that awaited me. I was itching to escape the confines of my current routine and dive back into the vibrant chaos of college. But should I voice this desire to Avantika, or should I let it slide? I pondered the dilemma, feeling the tug of war between my head and my heart. There was a voice inside me urging me to follow my heart, reminding me, "Listen to your heart. It knows what's best for you." Despite the doubts, I listened to that inner voice. I knew I wanted to embrace every moment of my college experience, to savor the laughter, the freedom, and the camaraderie that awaited me. I made my decision. I would go. I wanted to make the most of my college life and experience it fully. Though I was all set to go, Avantika wasn't too happy about it. She sent me a text right after the meeting. "हाँ, जा, मुझे छोड़ के कॉलेज एंजॉय कर. मैं यहाँ ऑनलाइन क्लासेस में ही मरती हूँ. तू वहाँ माजे मार." I chuckled at her sarcasm, but deep down, I knew she was genuinely upset. But my mind was made. I wanted to experience college, even if it meant upsetting her a little. Guess who is back again? Bangalore, again. Although this time it was again with masks and social distancing, there was something about the city that felt refreshing. Offline classes had resumed, and despite the oddity of attending lectures in person with half our faces covered, it felt good. As I settled into the routine of campus life, there was a part of me that couldn't shake the thought of Avantika. I missed her. Sure, I was enjoying the company of Pavni and my batchmates, but deep down, there was always that nagging. Inside me, Avantika's absence was palpable. Just 2 days later, Tanishka arrived in Bangalore. We didn't talk much. There was always this unspoken distance between us. Most of our conversations revolved around studies, nothing personal. Without Avantika in the mix, we had run out of things to say. We'd sit together in class, exchange a few words about assignments, but that was it. No depth, no real connection. Meanwhile, things with Avantika had taken a strange turn. Since I came back to Bangalore, her messages had become shorter, and she wasn't talking to me as much. I assumed she was upset that I had decided to come back. Whenever we spoke, she would throw in remarks like, "Making more friends there, huh? Why would you even remember me?" I'd reassure her, but deep down, I could feel something was off. The same thing happened again at night. Her call was busy. No reply, no explanation. I didn't ask and let it slide. It's time, too. I found out it was Mehul. He was going through a lot of academic pressure. And once again, at 11:34, there was a knock on my door. My heart skipped a beat. I thought maybe it was something Avantika had sent. But when I opened it, it was Tanishka, standing there with a cake box in one hand and a black plastic bag in the other. "Are you going to make me stand out here, or can I come in?" she teased, grinning. I tried to hide my disappointment as I was expecting someone else. "Of course, come in," I said, smiling as she walked in with the cake. I thanked her for being there. By the time it hit midnight, my phone started ringing, with calls and texts from everyone, except the one person I was waiting for. Her absence stung, and I tried to hide it, but Tanishka could tell. "You don't seem happy," Tanishka said, reading me like a book. "What's wrong?" I sighed. "I was waiting for Avantika's call. It's already past midnight." Tanishka shrugged and smiled. "She's probably asleep, don't worry about it." She pulled 2 Budweiser cans from the black plastic bag and said, "Come on, let's celebrate, it's your birthday. Forget everything for now." We sat, drank, and talked for hours. At that moment, something shifted. I realized how much I relied on Tanishka. She wasn't just a friend. She was becoming my best friend. We laughed, we reminisced, but in the back of my mind, I was still waiting for that call from Avantika. I noticed Tanishka's phone buzzing. She glanced at the screen. It was Avantika calling. I raised my eyebrows, asking her to put it on speaker. She hesitated, but eventually did. A moment the call connected, we heard Avantika's voice sounding stressed. "Yar, a major fuck-up happened. I was talking to Mehul and forgot to call Dev for his birthday." My heart sank. She quickly turned off the speaker and rushed outside. When she came back, she said, "Avantika was just talking to Mehul about some family issue. Relax, nothing major." I didn't believe her. I looked at her and said quietly, "Tell me the truth. Please. Are they dating again?" I asked, my voice barely hiding the frustration. She shook her head, trying to calm me down. "Nah, chill out. Just finish your beer. We'll talk about this tomorrow. She's your girlfriend, right? You chose her." Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Avantika. I hesitated but picked it up, putting it on speaker. "Sorry, Dev. I don't know how I fell asleep like that," she said, her voice sweet but hurried. "Happy birthday, my love. I'm so sorry. I've sent you a gift, and it'll be there tomorrow." Tanishka gave me a look, silently urging me not to mention what I'd overheard earlier. "It's okay," I said, trying to mask the hurt. "Good night." As soon as I hung up, my eyes could not help. Tears started welling up, and Tanishka noticed. She didn't say anything at first, just quietly wiped them away. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I love her, Tanishka. I still do. But why these lies? Why all this?" Tanishka sighed, her hand resting on my shoulder. "Okay. Listen, if I tell you something, you promise not to share it with Avantika, right? Promise," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind inside me. "She says they're just friends, but honestly, I don't know why she talks to Mehul so much. And Mehul, he's not over her. Here could be something else too. He even came to meet her recently." My heart sank further. "How do you know that?" Tanishka hesitated. I follow Mehul on Instagram. Here, look." She pulled out her phone and showed me a post, Mehul and Avantika together. Mehul, with his awkward smile and those oversized glasses, stood next to Avantika, who looked as beautiful as ever. "Who posts pictures with their ex like this?" I muttered, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. "Forget it. Trust Avantika," Tanishka said, trying to reassure me. "Finish your beer." After a moment of silence, Tanishka broke the tension with an unexpected question. "You know, we were never really that close, right? But these past few months, do you think we could be best friends?" I looked at her, taken aback by the honesty in her question. "Yeah, Tanishka. I want us to be best friends. Thank you for everything. We stayed up the whole night, talking about everything. Our first crushes, embarrassing moments, even the first people we'd kissed. There were no walls, no letters. We laughed, drank more beer, and shared stories we'd never told anyone else. And then, something happened. Something unspoken. It wasn't loud or obvious, but it was enough to shift the dynamic, adding something more to our trio. Tanishka made me promise not to mention it to anyone, and well, promises are meant to be kept. It's 2024, and here I am, sitting with a half-empty glass. I was about to pour another peg, but the old monk was gone. Just like that. I stared at the empty bottle, sighed, and glanced at the time, 2 a.m. How did it get so late again? Memories of 2021 crept back in like shadows that refused to fade. It's funny how time can blur everything except the moments you wish you could forget. The girl who had been my anchor through the storms, the one who shared countless late nights and whispered secrets with me, was now just a fragment of my past. In the quiet of the night, as I sipped the last remnants of my drink, the weight of it all pressed down on me. The promises made, the unspoken moments, the way we thought we understood each other. These were the things that lingered. Time had moved on, but the beauty and sadness of those memories stayed, etched in the corners of my mind. It's time I set 7 alarms, hoping to wake up on time. First alarm at 10 a.m., snooze. 10:05, snooze again. By 10:10, I was awake enough to realize, oh crap, I've got a 10:30 class. Classic MBA move, living life dangerously between snooze buttons and deadlines. Feeling oddly refreshed. Thanks, old monk, my body's probably adjusted to it. I made my way to Professor Reunit's stats class. There he was, teaching t-tests. On pen and paper. In an MBA. I mean, who are we? Statisticians from the Stone Age? On Excel, it's 3 clicks. But here we were, burning through 2 full pages of calculations like cavemen discovering Re. I always wanted to raise my hand and ask Sir, which company in 2024 is going to say, forget automation, grab that notepad and manually solve this t-test? Because that's a job I'd love to miss out on. His voice droned on like a radio, stuck between stations. Just the kind of frequency that makes you question every life decision. I glanced around, and sure enough, about 50% of the class was either half asleep or on the verge of it. But honestly, I was pretty relaxed after seeing all the others. MBA now means relative marking, and in MBA language, that translates to, you're not just competing against yourself. You're competing against every other person in that room. So even if you scored a solid 90, but everyone else scored 100? Well, congratulations, you just failed. I thought an MBA was supposed to be about teamwork and growth, you know? Learning together, building synergy, all that corporate jazz. But nope. Here we were, a bunch of over-caffeinated gladiators in a statistical death match, racing to see who could finish the t-test first. Because, obviously, McKinsey is looking for people who can win the fastest pen and paper t-test champions. Congratulations, you nailed that manual calculation. Now grab your notepad and welcome to the prestigious manual math division. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the class ended. Sweet relief, until I remembered there were still 2 more subjects ahead, none of which ever made sense to me. After surviving all those lectures, I couldn't shake the thought. Was this B-school stuck in 2024, or had it time-traveled from the 1990s? Someone really needed to remind them that laptops and computers were not just a dream, but actual tools used in this century. I finally made my way back to my room. The silence of the hallway felt like a relief, a break from the constant noise of the day. As I reached for my keys and slid them into the lock, my fingers brushed against the key ring, a little key ring. A one that Tanishka had gifted me. I paused for a moment, staring at it, the charm dangling there, catching the faint light. It was small, barely noticeable to anyone else, but to me, it carried the weight of 1,000 memories. I knew I liked her, more than I was ever willing to admit. But does that mean our friendship had to suffer? Can 2 people not stay best, friends, just because one of them felt something more? As I held that key ring in my hand, I couldn't help but think about how things had unfolded between us. It was Tanishka who first felt something for me, but back then, I was with Avantika. I was too wrapped up in that mess to even realize what was happening with Tanishka. She kept her feelings hidden, buried under the weight of our so-called friendship. And when things finally started to change, when I realized I felt the same, she had already moved on with someone else. Timing has always been our worst enemy. It made me wonder, did loving someone always mean risking the friendship? Or was it just bad luck that every time one of us was ready, the other was too late? It was like a cruel joke, falling for each other, but never at the right time. The unspoken moments. Don't forget my birthday of the year 2020. That was the year I found Avantika. But 2021? That's when I found something even more precious. My best friend, Tanishka. Days blurred into weeks, and every day Tanishka and I grew closer. Late-night chats, the endless banter. It all felt so natural, like it was meant to happen. The more we talked, the less I missed Avantika. It was strange how that void started to fill itself without me even realizing. We'd always argue about the weirdest things. I'd look at her and say, "How do you even watch anime? It's just cartoons." And she'd be back without hesitation. "And how do you watch Shah Rukh Khan in every movie? Same overacting, same dramatic running with his arms wide open." I had to admit, she had a point. The whole arms wide open SRK signature move was kind of ridiculous when you thought about it. But it didn't stop me from defending him. One thing I always admired about Tanishka was how unfiltered she was. She never sugar-coated anything, and that honesty was rare. She never lied. Well, except for that one time. That one lie that changed everything. The distance between us. Vantika was in my life then, and though things felt shaky, I was holding on, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't lying. Atmihul was just her friend, nothing more. But by the time December rolled in, it wasn't just Avantika occupying my mind anymore. It was also Tanishka. Yet, every time I brought up Avantika, Tanishka would either ignore it or change the subject. I couldn't tell if it was deliberate or just my imagination. There was a particular day I remember when we were sitting in the library. The silence felt louder than usual, and I could sense something weighing on her mind. After a while, she just looked at me, eyes searching for something deeper. Basu. She used to call me by this nickname. I still have no clue why. I mean, out of all the nicknames in the world, Basu? She said quietly, "What's your priority list?" I blinked, not expecting that question. "Huh?" "In your life," she continued, "who comes first? Me or Avantika?" I froze. The air between us thickened with the weight of that question. I knew the answer, but saying it aloud felt like betraying Tanishka. even if it was the truth. Tanishka, she's my girlfriend, I said slowly, almost apologetically. So yeah, she comes first. The words hung in the air for a moment before she nodded. There was no argument, no outburst. Just a quiet nod, as if she had already known what I was going to say. In that case, she whispered, we can't be best friends anymore. Not like this. I felt a pang of panic rise in my chest. What? Tanishka, no, that's not what I meant. You're my best friend. Basu, we can't keep going like this. Her voice broke the silence that had settled in the library. Tanishka sat across from me, her eyes fixed on the table, tracing patterns on the wood as if trying to distract herself from what she was about to say. I blinked, unsure of where this conversation was going. What do you mean? She looked up, and there was something in her gaze I hadn't seen before, an unfamiliar distance. I mean, with you and Avantika, I feel like I'm always stuck in the middle, and yeah, January is coming, and Avantika will be here. I opened my mouth to argue, but felt short of words. The truth was, Tanishka had always been there for me, even when Avantika wasn't. And yet, I kept her in the background, not realizing how much it hurt her. She sighed, running, her fingers through her hair, frustration etched on her face. I can't be your second choice, Basu. You're not, I said quickly, but my voice lacked conviction. She shook her head. You don't get it. I asked you, what's your priority list? And you didn't even hesitate when you said it was Avantika, and that's the problem, she said, standing up abruptly. I can't keep doing this. I can't pretend like it. We are not on the same page. Tanishka, wait. I stood too, reaching out as if I could physically stop her from leaving. I don't want to lose. You. She paused, her hand gripping the back of her chair. You already have, Dev. The words sliced through me, and before I could say anything, she walked out of the library, leaving me surrounded by rows of silent books. The air felt heavier, the space suddenly too small, too suffocating. The quiet drift. After that, conversation in the library, all my time in Bangalore became hazy. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was slipping through my fingers. No, someone, actually. Someone who had meant more to me than I was willing to admit, even to myself. Every time I tried to patch things up, the rift between us grew wider. Nights were the worst. Alone in the quiet, my mind would spin in circles. I'd think about Tanishka, about everything we used to share, and wonder where it all went wrong. The conversations, the laughter, the comfort. All of it seemed like a distant memory now. I'd lie awake for hours, replaying every word, every moment, hoping to end a way to fix it. But no matter how many times I went over it, the answers never came. And then, after spending hours thinking about Tanishka, I'd do something that only made things worse. I'd text Avantika. It was a habit I couldn't seem to break. I'm still talking to Avantika, I'd tell myself, as if that would somehow make me feel better, as if it would make the emptiness go away. But deep down, I was aware that this wasn't the solution. It was just another distraction, another fragile connection I was trying to keep intact, even though it felt like both were crumbling. I was losing both of them, and I was too stubborn to admit it. I thought I could balance it all. My friendship with Tanishka, whatever was left of it, and whatever it was I had with Avantika. But the truth was that I was losing them both. When we were us. Kept trying. Every day I found myself reaching out, asking her to talk, to just explain what had gone wrong. We'll sort it out, I would say. We can X this. Just tell me what happened. But every time she'd give me the same answer. a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and a half-hearted, "It's nah." I could feel her slipping further away, but I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. I told myself that if I tried hard enough, if I kept pushing, we'd our way back. So I kept at it. Day after day, I'd ask her to meet, to talk. I tried everything, random messages, sending her songs that once made us laugh. But nothing worked. The more I tried, the more distant she became. It was like chasing a shadow. Finally, after what felt like 100 failed attempts, we had a real conversation. It wasn't the heartfelt talk I had imagined, but it was something else. We were sitting in the canteen one afternoon, and I managed to catch her alone. "Can we please talk?" I asked, almost pleading this time. "Tell me what's wrong. We can figure it out. We always do." She sighed, pushing her plate aside and looking at me with tired eyes. For a moment, it felt like she was going to shrug me off again, like she had so many times before. But this time, something was different. She didn't look away. "Fine," she said, her voice quieter than usual. "We'll talk. But it's not going to change anything. Here's a difference between best friends and just friends. Best friends stay no matter what. But regular friends, they drift. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you can't bring them back." Her words stung, but at least it was a start. I leaned in, desperate for any sliver of hope that we could X this. "Why does it feel like we're drifting apart?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked down at the table, her fingers tracing the edges of her plate. "Because we are," she finally said. "I don't know when it happened, but we're just not the same anymore." I felt a lump in my throat. "But we can exit. We always figure things out. We've been through so much together." She shook her head slowly, her eyes meeting mine with an almost unbearable sadness. "Not this time. We're not on the same page anymore. We haven't been for a long time." I didn't know what to say. For so long, I had been trying to convince myself that things would get better, that if I just kept pushing, we'd go back to how we used to be. But hearing her say it out loud, it broke something inside me. I nodded, though every part of me wanted to argue, to fight. "So that's it then?" I asked, my voice shaking. "We're just friends now?" "Just friends," she said softly. "Like you and Pavni." And just like that, the nail thread between us snapped. The moment it all broke. Anishka and I still talked, but things were different now. She never made the first move. I was the one calling her, texting her, asking if we could meet or sit together in class. It was always me. She barely picked up the phone anymore, and when she did, it felt like she was doing it out of obligation, like she was talking to someone else, someone more important. We still spoke, but it was rare, almost robotic. By January, the distance between us had grown, and yet I tried to ignore it. January was a strange month. Avantika was coming back soon. I should have been excited. I should have felt something. But deep down, I knew things weren't the same. Sure, we were still dating, but there was this unsettling feeling I couldn't shake. We said "I love you," but it was hollow, like we were forcing ourselves to believe in something that wasn't there anymore. And came January 7th, Tanishka's birthday. I wanted to make things right, but there was this invisible wall between us. Just 2 days later was when Avantika was landing in Bangalore, and I was caught in this mess between what was and what should have been. Some stories don't end with a goodbye. They echo for years. And in Part-2, we felt every bit of that echo, through unsent messages, shattered hopes, and the ache of memories that refuse to fade. But Dev's journey is far from over. Because healing is messy, and love, even when it hurts, always leaves a mark. The next chapter, Part 3, will be uploaded soon. Want the full story? Get the free PDF in my Telegram channel. Link is in the bio. If you felt this, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your support helps this small channel grow and brings more real stories to life. You were listening to Maya. Until next time, keep feeling, keep listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest thing to do is simply let go.